Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. I'm your host, Coach Adam, here with Coach Damon today, and we're going to be getting into some talk about power, what it is, why we do it, and how it's actually going to be the quality of fitness in which you lose the fastest or at the most rapid pace. But before we get into that, as always, we are going to shout out a member of the week, and this week, Mr. Mark Hoffman.
What a
Mark,
legend.
yeah, take it, Mark.
I mean, I know Adam has worked with Mark more often than I have. He's usually a 1 o'clock guy, always getting after it. You talk about the intensity, walking in the room. You know when Mark's in the room and he's just ready to push it every day. He's probably one of the most, how do I put this? Always trying to break a PR, but I'm
Yeah,
trying to find the word for that.
he's just not like PR searching, but he knows how to push himself.
Yeah, that's a better way to
Um,
put it.
he's always dripping in the gym. He's working hard. He's on our shoulder program, has been for a long time and loves it. Has seen a lot of uh growth out of that. On a barbell back squat, he wasn't even able to get his arms into the position to hold the bar, and now he's like PRing his back squat like from 1 week to the next. So he's a great example of how, following a good program like that can get you good results on the other side. And it was his birthday this week as well. So happy belated birthday, Mark.
Happy birthday, Mark.
Yep. All right. So moving into the topic for today, if somebody asks you what makes you feel old, what are you going to say, right? Are you going to be saying maybe you feel weaker or maybe you feel slower, right? Things like that. So most people are focused on trying to maintain their strength as they age, which is, of course, very important and definitely should focus on that. And we do that by, putting on as much muscle mass as we can. But research is showing that the one physical quality that we actually lose in aging faster than strength is power. And power, not to get confused. So when you're like power in an everyday instance is going to be something like getting out of your chair, right? You can take your, elderly person, you look at them getting out of a chair, it's slow, right? It's almost like segmented, a movement to get them into a standing position. So getting out of the chair can actually be a power movement, right? You stand quickly more often than not. Climbing stairs, right? It's essentially one step up after the next. And then a very practical thing, especially for a lot of people in our demographic, is kids and grandkids, moving them around, all these things. So we're going to talk a little bit about what are the most important things that you can do to address that power and kind of hold on to it for as long as you can. So sometimes confusing between power and strength. Strength is just strictly how much force you can produce. So just how much weight can you pick up? This is examples, your deadlift, your squat, farmer's carry, anything heavy, bench press. Most of your compound movements, right, that you're just moving heavy weight, but not necessarily at a rapid pace. That's where power comes in. Power is how quickly you can produce force, that same force. It's time, right? So the equation is force times speed, and that's how you find out what your power is. So you could take a deadlift, you can take a squat and perform it with a like 1-to-1 ratio, like, or let's just say 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up, nice and equal strength, perfect. 1 second down, 1 second up would be power, right? Trying to move that same amount of weight or same amount of force at a quicker pace. Right. Um, some examples of some power stuff that we see often: jumping, sprinting, throwing, standing up quickly, like we were just talking about in the chair situation, and then especially catching yourself from tripping or falls. Very practical, of course, with aging. So, um, why does power decline faster than strength is the question, because that's what we were starting to discover.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much of a loss of the the word power. It's more of you're losing your fast twitch muscles before your slow twitch muscles. The difference of that is that your fast twitch muscles is what defines power, trying to be able to recruit muscles at a fast pace to be able to fire when you want them to. Versus the slow twitch, it's being able to keep that strain on that muscle for a period of time. Just going back to his ratios, the 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, or whatever exercise that you're doing, that's going to be firing off of your slow twitch muscles. And as we age, reaction time starts to slow down, your nervous system efficiency decreases, and movement of just speed in general of whatever you do in your day to day starts to slow down. But how do we fix that? How do we slow that process down for after you hit a certain point of age? I'd say roughly around, would you say between 28 to 30 is when you peak, and then after that it would be
Right.
a pretty big decline, especially if you're not doing anything.
Right.
But if you're working out consistently, and being able to work on these power movements, it's going to be able to help slow that process down and just honestly slow the process of aging down, because I feel like with our demographic, a lot of people care about, how they look and how they present themselves. And this is one of these steps that of many in the fitness industry that can help with that process.
Yeah, I think all great points. The muscle fiber thing is, we could do a whole podcast just on that, but you could essentially look at it as like your type 1s are like your slow everyday movements, right? So you're recruiting type 1 muscle fibers in any activity that you do. Just the recruitment of it, like you have to have them to perform movement. And then you get into the 2X and the 2B. There's two different fast twitch fibers, and those are tapped into a little bit less in everyday life. So unless you're specifically, strength training or training power specifically, you're not going to recruit those types of muscle fibers nearly as often. And that's why we see the decrease in their prevalence in people.
And it's like a good example too of trying to understand where your power could even be at. It could be as simple as catching yourself when you're falling down, right?
Yep.
It's one of the scariest things for people, maybe a little bit more above our age demographic. I'd say maybe 20% of our clientele is in that 70 plus range. But
Yeah. They
you,
do bring that up though. The ones
yeah.
that are in that range, they're like, I want to, I've got friends, this and that, are falling down their stairs once a week or something. They're like, I
Mhm.
just don't want that to be me.
And it's a fear. It's a true thing to be worried about.
Yeah.
And with that being said, the people that have the hard times being able to hold themselves up or being able to catch themselves when they lose their balance, that's their fast twitch muscles going away, basically.
Yeah.
And versus some of our clients that are able to catch themselves, those are people that we've been working on trying to make sure that their power still stays engaged throughout their workouts.
Right. And we say power like as if we were going to go turn around and produce a movement, which is it's very true. That's what power is. But just like you're saying the catch with the fall, it's the reaction time. Like
Hmm.
it's a nervous system thing. So it's not always intentional, okay, I'm going to jump up onto this box. It's how quickly can I react to a misstep. So it kind of goes both reactive and intentional with the fast movements. Um
And I just want to add another
yeah,
point
go
there.
for it.
Don't get confused with how power can be explained for maybe a athlete that's working on specific movements for their sport versus the power that we're trying to work on for the everyday person. And I
Yeah.
feel that's another thing that people get really confused about, because when they think power, they think, oh, I got to do a clean and jerk. No, we don't, we don't need to
That'd
get
be
to that
sweet, but
extreme. I would love to see our demographic do that. I would sit down, eat some popcorn, watching that. Wow. But not everybody's at that stage, and not everybody needs to be at that stage. So it's a good thing that I wanted to point out there for our
very
age
true.
demographic.
Very true. A lot of power stuff is sport specific, and I guess that kind of bleeds a little bit into, like, especially here, we have a lot of people that, golf. There's a lot of golf that happens here. Pickleball, of course, is taking over the world, so there's that as well. Tennis, hiking, all these things that you could train power, sports specific, if you want to try to increase like a skill or improve a skill. Power is a good way to do that as long as you've, been relatively regular with your regular strength training. It's a good thing to add into the mix as just kind of a cherry on top. But again, it's not always just about a sport specific movement. It's the practical reactive stuff as well. So there's kind of two sides to it. Um, it's like we said a little bit earlier. It's a nervous system skill. So it's about recruiting the right kind of muscle fibers as fast as possible. So you can look at it as like your nervous system is like, take a computer for example. So strength training is going to upgrade your computer or your phone. You go and you update your phone. That's your strength training. Uh, the power aspect of it and your nervous system working well is like the connection to the internet. So you could have a phone in your pocket that's upgraded and all these things, but maybe you're not connected to the Wi-Fi, or maybe your Wi-Fi signal is loose. That's kind of like the bridge that the nervous system is making as far as like fluidity of your strength training and of the power training that you want to be doing. So that's kind of an example of it. Here at Legacy, so we have three, and members might be finding this out right here for the first time if you're listening to this pod, or you might already know, but you're basically falling into one of three buckets. You are either a level 1, 2, or 3 member. Not a good thing or a bad thing, but everybody falls into a certain set of needs, right? Like when I was with the Dodgers, we had guys that needed coordination work, you had guys that needed mobility work, and then guys that needed strength work. And it was kind of like a Venn diagram and these like overlapping, like how much of what does everybody need? And that's kind of how we filter what level you are here at Legacy, right? So your level 1 people, they have just a little bit less volume than the level 2s and the level 3s overall in a workout, but we're addressing things like stability and some extra mobility and things like that that we figure if we address this now, it'll translate and start to work for when they are a level 2.
Mhm.
The vast majority, I would say probably 80%,
At least 80.
yeah, 80%, maybe a little bit more of the members here are level 2 members who are going through our regular programming, have a normal amount of volume. They're still getting their mobility, their flexibility, but they have the wherewithal and awareness that you can do some power work with the strength exercises that you're now comfortable with. Right? Like you take like a push press, or
Mhm.
like a dumbbell push press, for example. It's not classified under our power movement patterns, but you can make it that, right? So
Exactly.
always ask your coaches, Damon, Tara, me, Brandy, like we can always give you advice on how to make any given exercise, quote unquote, a power movement. And it usually has to do with the speed of the movement, right? So we're getting some of that in level 2. And then level 3 is what I would say is probably the most advanced level. This is where you actually have a power block that is built into your workout right after our warm up. So everybody starts with the warm up first. Level 3s will then go into a power block, which is more often than not 3 sets of 6 reps of 1 or 2 exercises that directly correlate to the movement pattern of that day. So, like, what do we have out there today? We had bench, um, bench and row, barbell bench, but yeah,
Yeah, we had bench and row.
bench and row today. So those are the 2 compound movements for the day. It's upper body day. Those level 3 people had a horizontal press power and a horizontal pull power movement before even getting into their main block, kind of as primers, right? They're a little
Mhm.
bit more of advanced movements, but they're trying to encourage and wake up those type 2 muscle fibers.
Absolutely. It's almost like, and I like to tell most of my clients when they're doing a power movement, or if I want even a level two to speed up the tempo of whatever it is that they're doing, I tell them to think about as if they're trying to snap their fingers. And that tempo is where you want your muscles to fire. When you snap, that's when you should feel all those muscle fibers firing. And most of the time, it gets clicked in their head because let's just say a jump, for example, when they're going down, they're preparing the load, they're getting the muscle fibers ready. And right when they're ready to jump, that's when that snap occurs. Or let's go more simple step up, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have the times to kind of go through the motions and just kind of step on it lightly and just slowly get themselves up versus I like to tell them to lift their foot up and slam down onto the box.
Yeah, I like that
Not
cue.
ultra aggressively, to
Don't break
where
our box.
don't break the box,
You
but
won't, it's
enough
metal.
to where you're going to make a noise to affirm that you're saying I'm going through this full motion as quick as I can, trying to get it hard through to get all those muscles firing
It's a
to
good
get up
cue.
that step.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes a couple of good cues, so, like, that's why, like, we've got these in the bag, right? So, like, if you're curious about putting some power into your regular workout, ask us, and oftentimes it's just like one or two cues away, and it can make like all the difference in any given exercise, right?
Mhm.
So that's kind of how it plays out here at Legacy. Your levels 1, 2, and 3. You of course can move from one to the next, and just talk to your coach about it if you're curious about a little bit more power work, and we can always try to figure something out for you. So a lot of times with that power block, the level threes, they're seeing a lot of medicine ball work. So that's trying to teach the body how to accelerate, which is power, right? Speed. A lot of kettlebell swings for hinging type days, get the lower body to fire. It's the most distal from your brain, right? And then like a lot of jumps and bounds. That's where the stability stuff comes in a lot, and that's where you can help with falling issues and things like that down the line. So a lot of things like that are what we work on. Training power is absolutely for everybody. It can be your 80-year-old that's trying to get in the gym 2 days a week. We can give you some power stuff. It could be your athlete that's, here for the summer before going off to college to go play, baseball, whatever. um, the variability is wide, and like we're ready to adapt to any of that. It's teachable to absolutely everybody. So, don't just train strength. It's obviously very important and it's the forefront of everything that we do, but train speed, train power. And our goal isn't just to help you get stronger here, it's to help you move well and react well, for decades on end. So, that's what we got for you this week, guys, and we will talk to you next week.